What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Above the Clouds podcast. This is episode 6. Today I'm just talking about perspective and how you can use it in your drawings. Recently I've been drawing this cover illustration for my comic series that I'm developing and creating characters for and writing the story for. And so I'll just be going in and looking at how I am using perspective with my characters to create more dynamic illustrations and really tell a story. And here I have a time lapse of my cover art that I'm working on. So yeah, perspective, man. I didn't realize this when I was really first starting to draw, but perspective is really important. Just as much as it's important in landscapes, it's very much important in drawing characters. And so here you can see me. This is my thumbnail sketch I had. But even from my thumbnail sketch, I already had a general idea of how I wanted the camera to be laid out and the perspective of the scene. When I drew this, I'm imagining that this is a cover art or cover illustration for a book or like a comic book, graphic novel type of thing. And so I really wanted to make this piece, the sketch, I really wanted to get a dynamic feel out of it, and I really wanted to make sure that it wasn't feeling flat, because sometimes when you draw, when you just draw a character on a blank background or draw a character just floating in space, it can kind of feel kind of empty, and that's basically the opposite of what I was trying to do with this drawing here. And so by using perspective and just making something rough, you know, you can get something really that looks good. And yeah, the character I'm drawing his name is Eris. And while I don't have the story complete, or the story, it's basically all in my head, so I don't really have anything written down, not too much written down. I wanted to create something that would feel like volume 1 for this project. Like if this was a serialized, published type of book, what would this book cover look like? And this is what I've come up with right now. This is the sketch that I have. I'm using my knowledge of perspective to also take advantage of foreshortening, right, with the character. And so that just comes with practicing and learning perspective yourself. I think for this scene, I definitely wanted the horizon line to be higher up, and that just gave it more of a feel of a more dramatic feel, and maybe somebody's watching him in the woods as he's walking around. But yeah, this is what I have so far, and just using perspective in the most basic way, understanding it in the most basic and fundamental way, will have you creating illustrations and drawings that can really tell a story. And that's the whole point of what I'm trying to do with this drawing and moving forward with other illustrations. So hopefully this, I can explain what I'm thinking and help you out with learning perspective and the benefits of that through this video. So let's get to it. All right, so I've made a lot of progress on this piece over the last few days, and so let's just ignore all the color and all of the lighting, just focus on the perspective of this. All right, so when I'm thinking about creating a dynamic scene with the character and the background, the most important part for me is to establish the perspective and where the camera and eye level is at. And so you can see that here in my thumbnail sketches. I didn't do too many for this character, but the ones I did, I really liked. At first, I thought I was gonna go with this first one. I thought I was gonna go with this one over here, but I ended up going for this one. Obviously, I liked how dramatic of the angle it was, and where the horizon line was with this. It just felt a little bit better, felt a little bit more interesting to look at. This one was cool. I like the balance of this composition, but I really enjoy this one a lot more. So the first thing I was thinking of when I was creating this is just that I don't want my drawings to feel flat. And so in the thumbnail stage here, I really wanted to establish that perspective and do that really early on. So for this thumbnail, the perspective it's pretty loose, and you can keep it loose like that with the thumbnail sketches, but you can tell I had a 3-point perspective going on here, and that's what I was thinking about when I was drawing it. For this one, it's a 1-point perspective, and especially early on when you're doing thumbnails and sketching out ideas, I think it's really important to establish that perspective, establish the eye level of the scene, and really establish the camera angle. That way your character's just not floating in space. That's why I didn't really flesh out this too much, because he's just floating in space. It's kind of boring to look at, so I was like, I can do better. I'm gonna try and get this done, get this idea out of my head. Even though this is a cool sketch of Eris, he's just floating in space, so I wanted to come up with something a little bit more interesting. And it's not a character design sheet or anything, so definitely wanted to challenge myself and draw a full-on illustration. And by doing your perspective really early on in the process, you can really establish a 3-dimensional feel, 3-dimensional space in which your character is sitting in. Otherwise, it just kind of looks flat and no background. You can see my thumbnails down here too. That's the difference. That's the difference between these two up here and then these two down here. I put all my energy into these two, but these two didn't have too much perspective. You can see I just drew characters in this one and this one without perspective, without thinking about perspective too much, and that's why it looks flat to me. That's why it doesn't look as interesting to me, because I wasn't thinking of perspective in the very early stages of the drawing. Okay, so yeah, after you've got your thumbnails done and you're ready to move on to the bigger sketch, it's a good idea to do this and actually use a perspective grid. Like I said, this one is a 3-point perspective grid, and so I wanted to make sure the horizon line was high up and all the vanishing points are on the left side and the right side, left side, right side, and the very bottom. I wanted a bird's eye view of this character, so that's why I chose a 3-point perspective, and I feel like it gives it more of a dramatic feel to it, and it really helps the composition and the drawing in general. So yeah, you can either choose a 1-point perspective, 2-point, or 3-point for your drawing, just depending on what mood you want to go for. And so let me show you how easy it is to use perspective to your advantage. If you know the basic fundamentals of perspective, it's very easy to put in basic shapes for characters by using boxes and following the guidelines for these. So if I draw on a box here on my perspective grid, I can imagine that this is a character waiting to be placed here in this space. Just by using a simple box, geometric box, I can have a character here, or I can have another character down here. It really doesn't matter. If you understand how perspective works, you can use this to your advantage and draw characters within those boxes now. Like this, I can have a character here. A character here. Maybe he's closer to the camera like that. And the more comfortable you get doing that, the more comfortable, more you practice, the easier it gets to draw in characters in those boxes and in those forms, and draw characters in a 3-dimensional space with backgrounds. So it's very important to keep that in mind. And when I was drawing Eris, I wasn't really even thinking about that. I'm just so used to kind of practicing this and using perspective to draw and establish my drawing from a very early stage that I kind of already knew what form he would fit into, if that makes sense. Like what kind of box, what kind of shape he would fit into. Like this would be where Eris fits into the drawing right here, into the perspective. And that's really cool. When you learn how to do that, you can really use that to your advantage. I think I could have did that a little bit better with drawing Eris and then more of a 3-dimensional, 3-point perspective way, but it's all good. Did my best, and so far it's coming out really good anyway. So, hopefully this helped you out. Hopefully you can use some of these tips to in your own drawings and own illustrations and draw characters with backgrounds. And that's what I would definitely want to do more of. I definitely want to draw more characters and more backgrounds, and really challenge myself to do that. So this is what I have so far of this drawing. Hopefully you learned something. Hopefully I was able to help you out in your drawings and in your creations. I'm going to keep on working on this, but yeah, it's just perspective. Very important in drawing and illustrating and telling the stories. That's what I'm really trying to do with these characters and this world that I'm building, is tell the stories and use perspective to my advantage, use backgrounds to my advantage, and definitely use characters to tell those stories with. So yeah, hopefully you enjoyed this video. Hopefully I helped you out, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.
It's